What are 2 to 3 ways that scholars and future policymakers can protect themselves from the bias and the data manipulation?
I think the key is that we try to understand better what data can and cannot do. So the good thing about quantitative data is that it simplifies things, but we shouldn't push too hard for data to simplify things too much. As Einstein said, we should make things as simple as possible, but not simpler than that. And I think in this day and age we do. The second thing is that I think policymakers should be more willing than they are now to appreciate that a particular phenomenon may need a whole range of different indicators to capture it in its complexity, and also be willing to use that in a fair manner when they make and discuss policies, not only focus on one number. And the third and final thing is that I think we should, in general, not expect numbers to be the ultimate arbiters in public and policy affairs, and basically expect a little less from them, and maybe also rely more on other sources of information rather than just spreadsheets.
What is the role of multilateral organizations in fixing or improving the problem of the bias?
On the one hand, I think there is a whole lot of scope for technical assistance provided, say, for example, by the OECD or the IMF or the World Bank to help countries all across the income spectrum, by the way, not just poor countries, to improve their statistics. At the same time, I also think that many of these international organizations come to countries, particularly countries that don't have a whole lot of statistical capacity, with their own priorities and say, I want you, country X, to measure this and the other thing, and basically steer the limited resources that they are in a particular direction towards measuring inflation or exports or economic growth, where that country itself might have different priorities. And so leaving more scope also for homegrown measurement priorities rather than being completely guided by these multilateral organizations, I think would also be good news for statistics in these countries.
The final question is, in the lecture, you mentioned the problem of the incentives between the statisticians and the policymakers. So how can we solve and address this principal agent problem?
I wish there was an easy way to solve the contradictory impulses that statisticians and policymakers have when it comes to working with statistics. I'm afraid that at the present moment in political history, it seems very hard to come up with an easy fix of squaring that particular circle. I think politicians become more and more bold in using statistics in a very casual, cavalier, if not outright misleading manner, in a way that absolutely does not rhyme with the priorities and professional ethos of statisticians. I think it will ultimately be up to us as citizens to rein in these nefarious impulses of politicians rather than expect them themselves, out of their own volition, to change this, I think, very worrying trend.
Thank you very much, Professor.